ladies and gentlemen, excellencies, it's an honor and a privilege for me to be back in Kyiv. It is my third time and more to come. This city has become a symbol of courage and freedom under attack. This is why what is being defended here in Kyiv, now in the 5th year of the full-scale invasion, matters to all Europe. The theme today asks the right question: darkness or dawn? Is there light ahead? Ukraine knows the darkness better than anyone, but Ukraine also shows us where light begins: in courage, unity, and in a refusal to surrender freedom. There is perhaps a deeper European thread that connects places and generations in the defense of liberty. I could mention several examples across our continent, but on a day like this, the Ukrainian historical calendar speaks with the particular force. Yesterday's date, 22nd of April, recalled the 1918 Crimean operation of Colonel Petro Bolbochan, when forces of the Ukrainian People's Republic broke through into Crimea and entered Dzhankoi in a campaign to restore Ukrainian authority there. It was one chapter in Ukraine's long struggle for Volya, for freedom. This is why a poet, Taras Shevchenko's words still resonate here with the singular power. Quote, "Keep fighting. You are sure to win. God help you in your fight. For fame and freedom march with you. And right is on your side." Unquote. He was right then, and he's right today. Liberty is the condition for security, dignity, prosperity, and the endurance of free nations. And speaking of liberty, only days ago, President Zelensky accepted the International Four Freedoms Award on behalf of the Ukrainian people. Much more than a ceremony, a reminder that Ukraine's struggle is no longer seen only as a national cause, or even only as a European cause, but as a universal defense of democratic freedom. Ukraine is defending freedom and the right of its people to determine their own future. It is defending the principle that borders cannot be changed by force and that civilians cannot be terrorized into submission. Today, the international system is under pressure in more than one theater. We see it in Ukraine, and we see it in the broader arc of instability stretching from the Gulf to the Mediterranean. Different crises, different geographies, but one strategic reality: a deeper confrontation between two visions of international order. On one side stands the community of democracies, the Euro-Atlantic space, the NATO alliance, and those nations that believe in sovereignty, liberty, and the rule of law. On the other side stand authoritarian and revisionist actors who, despite their differences, increasingly align in order to weaken that order and reshape it in accordance to their interests. So, let us be clear. The real stake is our freedom. Freedom is the oxygen of the Western system. It fuels prosperity, innovation, legitimacy, and resilience. That is precisely why authoritarian systems fear it. In Ukraine, we have seen the brutal denial of fundamental principles of international law. Elsewhere, we see attacks on freedom of navigation, coercion against critical infrastructure, brutal repression of dissidents, and the instrumental use of instability. The West must rise to these challenges, and it must do so along two strategic lines. First, we must strengthen our cohesion. In today's world, cohesion within the Euro-Atlantic community not just sufficient is, but it is a strategic necessity. Deterrence does not depend only on military capabilities, it also depends on credibility and unity. Maintaining consultation, trust, and alignment among allies has become even more a daily strategic task, because cohesion is one of the essential conditions of deterrence. And it must be cultivated day by day. Second point, we must broaden international support for the principle we defend. We must demonstrate to our partners and to the wider international community that the principle we defend, security, sovereignty, freedom of navigation, the stability of global trade routes are not Western interests alone. They are global public goods. The developments around the Strait of Hormuz remind us of this very clearly. What happened there affects the stability of the global economy. And there, for example, Bahrain's initiative deserves particular attention. Bahrain did something strategically important. It refused to let a threat to maritime security be dismissed as a narrow regional issue. Acting on behalf of the Gulf Cooperation Council states and Jordan, and a wide support with the majority of countries, it transformed regional alarm into global diplomatic action at the United Nations. Okay, the resolution was eventually vetoed by Russia and China. We expected that. Yet, it highlights how freedom of navigation and protection of critical maritime corridors command overwhelming international legitimacy. This tells us something important. The world is watching and the world is choosing. The war in Ukraine was a strategic wake-up call for the West. It has taught us lessons we cannot afford to ignore. Deterrence is not only the ability to deploy forces. Deterrence is the ability to sustain them over time. But we know that time is a luxury we don't have. We need to hurry and gear up. The Euro-Atlantic cohesion and international support must translate into something very concrete: capabilities, readiness, and endurance. That means ammunition, maintenance, logistics, and training. If we want credible deterrence, we must strengthen our defense industries, increase production capacity, and deepen integration across the Euro-Atlantic space. We can already see the right direction, of course. In recent days, Germany and Ukraine signed new defense cooperation accord, including a major joint drone production effort that could become one of the largest of its kind in Europe. Similar agreements have been discussed or already signed with other allies. That is exactly the mindset we need: common production, common innovation, and common endurance along continued support to Ukraine. At the same time, the character of the conflict itself is changing. It is multi-domain, technological, and dominated by hybrid threats, particularly insidious. They can operate for a long period below the threshold of open conflict, with the purpose of weakening our political, social, and therefore our military resilience. When hybrid threats become fully visible, they have often already achieved part of their objective. Very often, they represent the first move of a wider conflict and rarely appears in a single form. Cyber attacks, disinformation, sabotage, pressure on energy system, weaponization of immigration, and pressure on undersea infrastructures. While taken individually, each of these actions may appear manageable, but taken together, they are designed to erode the resilience of our society and weaken our ability to respond. And their purpose is clear: generate confusion and fragment our societies. At NATO, we are determined to ensure that even in the hybrid domain, our adversaries encounter credible deterrence. This means strengthening the resilience of our societies, protecting critical infrastructures, and improving coordination between military authorities, governments, and industry. This is why resilience is not separate from military power. It is one of its foundations. And it requires action, not declaration, and now. Because in a hybrid and accelerated world, if you decide too late, you have already lost not only the initiative, but part of the contest. Kyiv teaches us something fundamental. Freedom has a cost, and peace without strength is only an illusion. This is why supporting Ukraine remains our priority. The credibility of the international order on which all our nation depends is at stake. Ukraine is today an integral part of the democratic community that defend these principles. And as a military leader, as a military officer, I am proud to work alongside Ukrainian armed forces that in such a short time have achieved an extraordinary level of operational effectiveness. The lessons they are providing us, but also other like-minded partners, are invaluable. But beyond the tactical and operational lessons, they also teach us on priceless human values like strength, courage, and commitment that are hard to put in words. Authoritarian actors are testing our resolve. Hybrid threats are probing our cohesion. But one truth remains unchanged. When democracies stand united, they remain the most powerful force for stability and freedom in the international system. As Dwight Eisenhower once reminded us, peace cannot rest on wishful thinking. Because a just peace will not be built on illusion. It will be built on strength, solidarity, and strategic clarity. Now and after. Our support shall and will remain unwavering. And that is also my answer to the question of this forum. Yes, light can be ahead, but not through hope alone. It will come if we have the strength to hold firm in the darkness and the unity to move together toward the dawn. Slava Ukraini!